Upgrades, upgrades, upgrades. That's the name of the game of this weekend in Japan, with a huge amount of teams bringing upgrades. Some we can see visually, while others are changes underneath the bodywork, which we cannot see. And it comes from the big teams like McLaren, like Ferrari, like Red Bull, to the smaller teams all the way at the back of the grid, such as Aston Martin and, of course, Cadillac. And with this being the Suzuka circuit, which of course is all about aero, all about downforce, it is imperative that teams got as much of a good balance out of their car and of course just improved upon their cars as much as they could. So without further ado, let's go over these upgrades teams have brought. And we will begin our time with Red Bull, as they've brought a substantial change across numerous areas of their car. They've got a completely new side pod, got a new side pod inlet, and they also have a new engine cover to go along with it. Now what they've done is they've introduced downwash side pods onto their RB22. They've also made changes to the inlet as well, which is now a little bit more inwards, so there's a little bit more of a curvature into the side pod area region. Again, this is all about airflow and what they're looking to get out of it as well. And they probably also learned that the engine, in terms of cooling, the requirements aren't needed to be as exaggerated in this region of the car. And with the tightening of the side pods and the minimizing of the amount of cooling in this region, they've now had to widen the engine cover exit as a compromise. Red Bull have also made further revisions to the forward-facing floor innovations that they've had on the car since pre-season. Now, they've finally included 3 additional miniature slots, turning vane daggers. I've seen them be called on Twitter, whether you want to call it that, whatever. But now this is just a small, nice, neat innovation that they've now added to that region. And this should just, again, further chop up the airflow, but also accelerate it in this region. Now let's focus on McLaren, who are one of the teams that haven't actually announced any upgrades really for this weekend, but everything has been about a rate saving measure. That's why. Now, a lot of their issues at the beginning of this season have been the excess weight which is on their MCL 40. It is quite substantially over the minimum amount in terms of the weight limit in 2026, and as such they're giving away free lap time. And this weekend it is all about making sure all of the pieces, all of the parts of their car is a little bit lighter than it has been in previous rounds. Hence why I believe we've seen a far more improved and competitive McLaren in the early stages of this weekend so far. I think we will see that trend continue, and I think they will be in a close fight with Ferrari across the main portion of it. Speaking of Ferrari, let's turn our attention to them, as they've made a few small minor modifications to the SF26 for this weekend. One of those is the T-tray arrangement right at the front of the car. They've made a slight modification to where the profiling of the sensor is. It now starts a little bit further forwards, right on the front of the T-tray rather than at the rear. And this is probably just to do with 2 particular things. This is probably for either sensor accuracy or just the aero for the car, a better balance. Essentially, this is what is known as a slip sensor. It measures the car's direction along with steering angle, and it tells the team the slip angle if there's understeer or oversteer. So just a slight change and tweak to where that is positioned on the T-tray. And they've also made a slight change and alteration to the front brake ducts. They've made them a little bit smaller than what the specifications have been at the first 2 rounds. Let's move and shift from the front of the grid to the rear of the grid, and we now can start with Aston Martin, who have made quite a few changes to the car, but not in the important area, which is of course the engine. There's nothing positive to be made from that. But they have made changes to the engine cover and to the kind of side pod slightly as well. Now, if you remember, they have these huge openings on either side of the side pod ever since the car debuted in pre-season testing in Barcelona. This was to do with potentially the amount of cooling needed for the Honda power unit, but as such I think they've now found they don't need anything anywhere near as extravagant, and as such they've slimlined that particular aspect. As you can see from these comparison shots on screen right now, that is a drastic difference, and this should just help improve drag, straight line speed, things such as that. Aston Martin have also made changes to the front wing in numerous areas. We're looking at the front wing elements, we're looking at the main plane, and again subtle changes to the end plates of their front wing. Again, this is all about making a balance shift in terms of the balance and aero, what is happening both front and rear, probably to bring in a little bit more of a neutral aspect in that regard. Sticking with cars that are extremely slow, let's bring about ourselves to Cadillac. Now they've made a change to their diffuser for this weekend as well. A very key aspect, an important part of a Formula 1 car for what brings about downforce and lap time. Nothing really else has changed on the car, but still important changes as Cadillac look to get on terms of everything, essentially, with them being such a brand new team, having only done 2 Grand Prix weekends thus far. And finally, Alpine have made 2 changes to their rear wing for the Japanese Grand Prix. As you can see, there's been changes to the end plate and the profiling that's undergone quite a substantial amount of change. The geometry of it, the curvatures have changed drastically from the previous specification. As well as that, they've also made changes to the active aero element of it, the actuator. As you can see, it's been further extended, the covering of their actuator. We've seen it without the cover, we've seen it with the cover, and now we've seen an elongated version of it as well. So changes are happening up and down the grid in every single team this weekend for pretty much all of the teams. Alright guys, thank you all for watching, hope you've all enjoyed it. If you have, leave a like, leave any comments, hit the subscribe button as always, and don't forget to check out the upgrade video I'm going to have a little bit later on this evening. And yeah, let's see what happens as the rest of the weekend unfolds here in Suzuka. Catch you all then.